Your boss said something wrong. Could be on a call, could be in a meeting. Does he fix it? Or do you? You do. And for that, you need these 15 reflexes to know what to say exactly when you need it. Bosses do get things wrong. And they're not the ones that usually fix them. They ask you to fix them. The thing is, if it's on a client call or a meeting, you need to know how to address it without being the one being blamed. You need to be able to have the conversational skills to address key problems as they happen. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a story that covers 15 reflexes that allow you to use clever sayings to address these key issues and how you can solve them in real time. The story covers a scenario, and I introduce these reflexes, these sayings, throughout the story. I would suggest that you notice when I repeat a sentence 2 times in order to notice these reflexes. For now, just listen. At the end, you'll be able to shadow these reflexes with me so you're able to use them whenever you need them. Here's our story. It's called the Cross-Department Client Meeting. It's a Wednesday afternoon at around 2:45. The video call has been running for 40 minutes. 6 faces from the client side, 4 from yours. Marcus is in the center tile, leaning into the camera. It's slide 19, Integration Timeline. The client's VP of Product is a woman named Catherine. She has her pen out and is playing with it. Her finance person, lower left tile, has a document open that you recognize from the corner of your eye. Statement of work. Live document. Whatever gets said in the next 15 minutes becomes contract language by the end of the week. You're muted. The camera is on, and your coffee is getting cold next to your laptop. We all know that feeling. Marcus is in mid-sentence about the new reporting API. You can hear him building towards something important. Yes, absolutely. Our team can integrate the new reporting API and have full historical data backfilled by Monday morning. It's a seamless process. Catherine nods, starts typing. The finance person types even faster. Your stomach drops into your shoes. You need to stop the contract from sealing around an impossible promise without making Marcus look like a fool in front of a client, especially one that he wants to close. You need Catherine to walk away thinking your team is sharp, careful, and technically credible. You need Marcus to walk away thinking you saved him, not exposed him. You need the finance person to delete what she was typing. You have maybe 15 seconds to do that. Your throat is tight. Your hands are cold. The dysfunctional version is loading in your mouth, but you can stop it. Sorry to interrupt, but I think Marcus might be slightly off on the timeline. Possibly, if I'm understanding the API correctly, which I might not be. 8 apologies stacked into one sentence. Catherine will hear hedging and assume you're a junior. Marcus will hear sabotage and never put you in front of a client again. You unmute, you take a breath, you don't say, "Sorry to interrupt." You say, "Help me understand. Help me understand. Help me understand the integration sequence we're looking in here. I want to make sure we're aligned before this goes into the next step." Catherine looks up from her notes. Marcus's smile tightens at the edges. You have the floor. You can keep going. The dysfunctional version wants out. "I just have a little worry about the API. Tiny, apologetic." You kill that. You say, "My concern is. My concern is. My concern is the historical backfill timeline, the data volume on the client side, and what it means for the API we're scoped for." Marcus jumps in. Smooth. Practiced. "I think we've got this covered. We've done backfills like this before. The room is waiting for you to fold, to back down, to stop. You don't. The dysfunctional version is, well, you might be right. I'm probably wrong. We stop it right now. Instead, what you're going to say is, I'm seeing it a bit differently. I'm seeing it a bit differently. I'm seeing it a bit differently based on the volume estimate Catherine Teams shared last week. That puts us at a roughly 3 times the data set of the previous integration. Catherine's pen stops moving. She's listening now. Marcus tries to recover. We can throw more engineers at it. That's not an issue. The dysfunctional version would say, okay, sure, if you say so. That is a total surrender. And you are not going to use that anymore. What you're going to say is, I want to push back slightly on that. I want to push back slightly on that. I want to push back slightly on that. The bottleneck isn't engineering hours. It's the API rate limit on the client side, which caps us regardless of how many people we put on the work. That is a major difference. Catherine turns to her own technical lead. He nods slowly. That's the right call on the API, he says. You feel the room shift. You're noticing the difference, but you keep moving forward. The dysfunctional version, I'm not against it. I just, maybe. Skip it. You know you don't sound like that. Instead, what you say is, I'm aligned on the goal, but I'm aligned on the goal, but I'm aligned on the goal, but the Monday morning deadline assumes a clean API and a smaller dataset. Right now, we have neither of those conditions confirmed. Notice the difference? Marcus's eye contact with the camera breaks for Just a half second. He's recalibrating. Good. You press. The dysfunctional version would have you say, maybe we should just check if that's okay. There's no rush. It should be fine. Instead, you stand firm. Let's pressure test that. Let's pressure test that. Let's pressure test that Monday morning number with Catherine's team in real time. If we're 3 days off, it's better to know now than getting to Friday afternoon. Catherine smiles. Small, professional, but it's there. The finance person stops typing. You take the floor completely now. The dysfunctional version would have you say, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but you say, let's look at the trade-offs. Let's look at the trade-offs. Let's look at the trade-offs between hitting Monday with partial historical data versus shipping Wednesday with the full backfill validated and clean. That puts you forward. Marcus jumps back in. I think Monday is doable if we're smart about it. The dysfunctional version would have you say, I am sure you know better than me, but what you say, are we confident that? Are we confident that? Are we confident that the API documentation we're working from reflects the current production endpoint? Last I checked, the scheme had 3 undocumented changes from Q2. Across the call, Catherine's text lead leaned forward into the microphone. That's the right call on the API, he says. You stay in the moment. The dysfunctional version would have you say, I might be worrying for nothing, but what if... What if... No. What you are going to say, have we considered the risk of... Have we considered the risk of... Have we considered the risk of shipping a partial backfill on Monday, then having to rerun the entire job midweek? That locks the reporting layer for both teams for 48 hours. Marcus is quiet now. Catherine is fully engaged. The finance person has her hand off the keyboard. The dysfunctional version wants you to say, just one tiny thing. Sorry, can I just add something quickly? You see, you don't. But you say, one flag I want to raise. One flag I want to raise. One flag I want to raise is the API rate limit specifically. At the volume Catherine's team is operating at, we hit the throttle ceiling within the first 6 hours of the backfill window. The finance person closes the SAW document. The dysfunctional version is still trying to make you say, in my humble opinion, which probably doesn't matter, you stop entertaining it because... But you say, from my perspective, from my perspective, from my perspective, the cleaner path is a phased rollout. The historical data lands in 2 waves. That gives us validation time and protects the client's reporting continuity. Catherine says, actually prefer that approach. Marcus slowly looks up and says, "Okay, walk me through the math on that." Walk me through the math on that. He's starting to understand. The dysfunctional version would have you say, "I think, but I'm not sure. The numbers might suggest that you replaced," but you're going to say, "If I'm looking at the data right, if I'm looking at the data right, if I'm looking at the data right, our last comparable backfill ran for 11 days and 1/3 of the volume. That makes Monday morning mathematically tight, even in the best case scenario." Marcus exhales and says, "Okay, that's a fair point." The dysfunctional version would have you say, "Just wondering out loud, no pressure, uh, take your time." But you say, "How set are we on this? How set are we on this? How set are we on this Monday deadline specifically? Or is the actual constraint your Q4 reporting kickoff, which we could still hit with a Wednesday or Thursday landing?" Marcus turns to Catherine. Catherine glances to the side at the finance person. This finance person just shrugs, just goes down, disappears. Marcus says, "Catherine, what's the real drive on Monday?" The room is fully yours, and you can keep installing. You can move forward. But the dysfunctional version would want you to say, "I get what you're saying. You're probably right, but..." No. You know that you're going to push with, "I hear you, but the reality on the ground is..." I hear you, but the reality on the ground is... I hear you, but the reality on the ground is that Wednesday, landing with the full validation gives Catherine team a clean reporting layer that we can all trust. That's worth more than hitting an arbitrary Monday. Catherine nods. The finance person reopens the SAW. There's a different language going on right now. One last beat. The dysfunctional version would have you say, "I don't want to be a downer, but maybe we should be careful." But you say, "Let's make sure we aren't backing ourselves into a corner. Let's make sure we aren't backing ourselves into a corner. Let's make sure we aren't backing ourselves into a corner with a Monday commitment that turns into a Friday emergency. A Wednesday commitment lands clean. Everyone trusts the data on day one." Catherine looks at her tech lead. He nods. She turns back to the camera. "Let's go with Wednesday. Marcus, can your team document the phased approach by tomorrow?" Marcus, fully recalibrated now, says, "Absolutely. We'll have it to you by the end of day." He looks into his camera, looks at your tile. Small nod. You noticed it. It's not warm, but it's there. Recognition. Respect. The call wraps. The SAW gets revised. The contract language reads phased integration completion by Q4 reporting kickoff. Not Monday morning. You close the laptop. Your shoulders drop just a little bit. Then your phone buzzes. A calendar invite. Friday, 9 a.m., Marcus's office. Subject line? Q3 migration. Leadership decision needed. Just you and me. That was our story. In order to make sure that it's part of you, we're going to do a shadow run. I'm going to say these reflexes again with their context, and you repeat after me so you're able to build that muscle memory that allows you to use these reflexes whenever you need them. Help me understand. Help me understand the integration sequence we're locking in. I want to make sure we're aligned before this goes into the SOW. My concern is the historical backfill timeline, the data volume on the client side, and what that means for the API. I'm seeing it a bit differently. I'm seeing it a bit differently based on the volume estimate Catherine's team shared last week. I want to push back slightly on that. The bottleneck isn't engineering hours, it's the API limit on the client's side. I'm aligned on the goal, but the Monday morning deadline assumes a clean API and a smaller dataset. Let's pressure test that. Let's pressure test that Monday morning number with Catherine's team in real time. Let's look at the trade-offs. Let's look at the trade-offs between hitting Monday morning with partial historical data versus shipping Wednesday with the full backfill. Are we confident that the API documentation we're working from reflects the current production endpoint? Have we considered the risk of shipping a partial backfill on Monday, then having to rerun the entire job midweek? One flag I want to raise is the API rate limit specifically. From my perspective, the cleaner path is a phased rollout. If I'm looking at the data right, our last comparable backfill ran for 11 days. How set are we on this? Monday deadline specifically? Or is it an actual constraint, your Q4 reporting kickoff? I hear you, but the reality on the ground is that a Wednesday landing with full validation gives Catherine's team a clean reporting layer. Let's make sure we aren't backing ourselves into a corner. With a Monday commitment that turns into a Friday emergency. Now you have 15 new sayings, or in the right context, that you can use on a regular basis. If you don't feel that they're a reflex yet, watch it again and shadow the sayings one more time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.